He was a monster then. He's still a monster now. Why are we talking about this man? Because people still make money from it. It's sick, it's dark, it's twisted. But they love it. Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's a nice day today. It feels so good outside, so I was like, let's get into the little Halloween themed cases, kinda, because y'all know I stay on Law and Crime. But I was on Law and Crime and I saw Gein pop up and I was like, why are we talking about him? Why is this on Law and Crime? They say there's some more stuff they found out and I want to know. We all know this case. It's an iconic case. They made movies about it. There's documentaries about it. And I got my annoyance with this also, okay? Let me hurry and get into this. Why are we constantly making documentaries? The Monster at Gein, that's his documentary that was on Netflix. I have not seen it yet. I don't think I'll watch it. I feel like all these documentaries, stories, they depict different things even though people look at the same cases. They make it more scary than it really is. They make it more demented than it really is, even though this was a dark case and the man had major mommy issues. Some people even told me at the end, because I don't care about spoilers because eventually I might watch it. There's just so many on serial killers, y'all. I get so mad. I just get annoyed that they're still making like stories about these people. Like, stop talking about them. But I've heard that somebody, for some reason, told me after the case, you kind of feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for no one. No one in stuff like this. The killers, I don't feel sorry for them. Why would I feel sorry for them? Even though the stories, like the way they were raised says a lot, and is ultimately that's the reason they become serial killers. That's why I always tell people, and other true crime people try to tell you, raise your kids right, because a lot of people be on revenge and then you look stupid and wondering why they're coming to kill you because it's like the way they were raised. That's a crazy statement. I'm so sorry. But I'm just saying that the way you're raised, it really maps out the rest of your life. Like, it's so crazy. There are so many serial killers. I talked about it before. The co-ed butcher. He hated his mom. He killed his grandparents, even though they're the ones that raised him. And after he killed his mom, he was good. Even though he killed other people along the way, he was good after that. By the way, I would never not say that this man was exactly 6'9". Think about that, strangling you. Oh my God, that is like so freaking scary. I cannot. But I want to know what they found out about this documentary. The top part says, before the Silence of the Lambs, there was Gein. That's just weird to me. First of all, I love that movie. The Silence of the Lamb is an amazing movie. We might have to watch it on the channel. Yo, it's so psychological. It's so good. But I don't know why they put that up there. I just feel like that was kind of weird. Like, before the Silence of the Lamb, there was Gein. He wasn't the Silence of the Lamb, I don't believe, right? That was not a real killer. So I don't know what that was. But let's just jump right into it.
Netflix just dropped Monster, the Ed Gein story. It's the latest series from Ryan Murphy about the real-life killer who inspired Psycho and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Here's the question. How much of it is true, though? How much of it is Hollywood horror? We're going to talk with an expert who has written the book on Ed Gein, literally, to separate fact from fiction. Let's talk about it right now. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
I actually didn't even know Psycho was based on that. Is my light okay, y'all? Let me, hold on. There we go. I watched Texas Chainsaw. I've seen all of them. I love them, okay? I like the 2002 version because it's more horror. It's so scary, and that was meant for it to be more scary. They say the original Texas Chainsaws are more like it. I guess they made it look so creepy, though, and disgusting. I don't know if it was like that, but because he wore women's clothing, all that stuff, human skin, all that, they made it more scary in 2002. It looked like a legit horror movie.
Netflix has dropped another bingeable series, Monster, the Ed Gein story. It is the third chapter in Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan's true crime anthology that previously reimagined Jeffrey Dahmer and the Menendez brothers. The series was already a hit. This one is now a hit too, because this time the series turns the gaze towards one of America's most disturbing real-life figures, Ed Gein, the quiet Wisconsin farmer whose crimes in the 1950s redefined horror forever. Now here's the trailer for the series, which, if you don't know, is #1 on Netflix chart right here in the United States. So who is Ed Gein? Ed Gein is the man who inspired Psycho's Norman Bates, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre's Leatherface, the Silence of the Lambs' Buffalo Bill.
Oh.
But how much of what
Okay, that actually makes sense. Okay, Buffalo Bill in there, he was wearing women's skin, killing them. Okay, I was wondering how that played a part in this. Okay, but #1, wow, a lot of horror movies and true crime lovers love that. Now, you would think I would, but no. I just hate all the stories because they constantly make money off of it, and it's like very just, I don't know, it's disturbing. Make money off of the victims. How about that? Like, actually tell their story. But because everybody has a story, even though they weren't like famous or nothing, these people should not be just constantly just depicted in so many different ways for money because they're serial killers. Like, oh my gosh, it's crazy.
What shows is real? How accurate is it? And how much is pure Hollywood nightmare fuel? We're going to get into that. We're going to get into that with an expert, a true crime author who has written books about this guy, okay? But first, let me back up a little bit, rewind, let's talk about it. Let's go to Plainfield, Wisconsin. Now, I want you to picture a lonely farm on the outskirts of a small, frozen Midwestern town in the late 1940s. The neighbors know Ed Gein as this quiet, polite handyman. Maybe a little odd, sometimes babysits for local families, but behind that mild-mannered exterior was a man spiraling into madness. Ed Gein was born in August of 1906 to George and Augusta Gein, a pair of deeply religious parents who raised Ed and his brother Henry under their mother's iron rule. This is according to a 1957 article in Time magazine. Augusta was a devout, fanatical woman who taught her boys that women were sinful, in particular telling them that something similar to the Bible's Noah's Ark, that story would happen again, to punish them for being immoral. She isolated Gein from the outside world, punished him for trying to make friends, and filled his head with fire and brimstone ideas about sin and sex and damnation. Experts believe that Ed Gein essentially worshipped her and became obsessed with her. Now, George, Ed's father, was an alcoholic who died in 1940. And 4 years later, Ed Gein's brother, Henry, died in a fire under what was determined to be suspicious circumstances, though it was officially ruled an accident. Investigators could never prove if Ed Gein was involved, and he never confessed. It into a shrine. And this is when things started getting really dark. According to reporting from A&E, he began reading pulp horror magazines and anatomy books, and information about Nazi medical experiments involving things as absolutely horrific as using human skin to make lampshades. Then, in the early 1950s, women in this area, women around Plainfield, started disappearing. The horror unraveled on November 16, 1957, when Bernice Worden, a local hardware store owner, went missing. Police found a receipt connected to Ed Gein in her store and blood on the floor. When they arrived at his farmhouse, what they found still defies belief. Inside, the horrors were unending. Organs in jars.
Hold on. I wonder if this is this the real place? Like, is this up? Because why does that, the reason I'm saying that, y'all, why does that actually look like one of the scenes from Texas Chainsaw 2002? If y'all have not seen that one, oh my God. It's so disgusting. It's so disgusting and atrocious and just so nauseating. Like, you literally get disgusted and about to vomit while watching it. That's how good it is. No offense. I just love horror movies, okay? But they made it more scary. It kind of looked like the one from House of Wax, too. If y'all have not seen House of Wax. Horror movies, Halloween, you gotta watch them. This dude looked just like that a little bit of him, because he threw her down the stairs. Then at the stairs, he's looking at her with the chainsaw, and then he's like following her, and it's so freaking scary. Okay.
Human skulls used as bowls, masks made of female faces,
that's scary. That's
a
the
lampshade
freaking
made from
Netflix
human
show.
skin, a corset fashioned from a woman's torso.
I'm sorry,
and
that
in a
really
shed,
scared me.
they discovered Bernice's decapitated, mutilated body hanging upside down like a deer carcass. Now, here's the thing. Ed Gein confessed not only to killing Bernice, but another woman, tavern owner Mary Hogan, who had vanished 3 years earlier. But most of the body parts in his home, they came from the graves that he apparently robbed. Women who he reportedly said reminded him of his mother. He admitted to exhuming at least 9 graves, cutting out useful parts to make furniture and wearable items. Investigators verified many of those details by reopening graves and finding them disturbed and things missing. According to USA Today, Ed Gein was later found mentally unfit to stand trial. He spent the rest of his life in psychiatric care. He was never really prosecuted for the other crimes that he admitted to. He spent the rest of his life in psychiatric care until his death in 1984 at the age of 77. Okay, now let's go back to Netflix, right? Netflix's Monster, the Ed Gein story. It stars Charlie Hunnam as Ed Gein. It's produced by Ryan Murphy and Ian Brennan. This 8-episode series released on October 3rd. It blends biography with horror. It traces Ed Gein's childhood, isolation, descent into madness. But here's what's interesting. It weaves in pop culture threads about how his crimes later shaped Psycho, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the Silence of the Lambs. It is slick, it is cinematic, it is deeply unsettling, but also in classic Ryan Murphy fashion, the argument is it's dramatically embellished. So to help us separate fact from fiction, to really uncover the real story of Ed Gein,
but the thing is, that's what Hollywood is. They embellish everything. Of course, they're not going to make something that's like real, too real. I would think sometimes people like that. They want it to be very, they want everything to be true. But you also have people who don't. They want it to be more horror, so they make it more scary than it is. But if they're advertising it as his true story, you know, you want to depict it exactly how it is. Even though, how many documentaries are there on this man? God, like even like the John Wayne Gacy. Oh my gosh, y'all, they have a new one. Like this is like literally the most annoying thing to me, because there's so many on John Wayne Gacy. I shouldn't even be talking about this man. It's so many stories. They had the one on Peacock, the monster. Is it the monster? Is it called the monster? No, it's like, I don't know. But all I know at the end, I didn't even know what this trailer was. I was watching something, and this trailer came on YouTube, and it was just them hanging out, all this stuff, and then at the end of the trailer, the girl, I think the boy, because it was all boys, he was walking, and he opened his car door and was like, "Oh, I can give you a ride," and it was like the story like John Wayne Gacy. I was like, didn't they just have one on Netflix? Stop making money from this. Stop making money from it. And the crazy part is that it actually looked good. That's what's crazy. I might actually watch that, because I was like, oh my God, I don't watch those like depiction stories, because I know the real story behind it. I'm like, y'all just keep making money from it. God, do something else. Come up with a new serial killer, okay? Do something else. Because I swear, it's too just repetitive. It's too repetitive. And it's annoying, because you see the same stuff. I think the other one they had was just the same thing. Him picking up young boys, because that's what he did. He was a pedo, and he was a murderer, and a torturer to little boys. It's like, y'all showing the same stuff. But this trailer did look really good, and I might watch it and do a review for you guys, because like, I'm not joking, it looked good. I was like, oh my God, like this look insane. It actually might be the best one they did, unfortunately, because it's like I want them to stop talking about it, but at the same time I might actually watch that. Well, I might do a review, just like episode review for you guys if y'all want to. I might do it anyway, because I'm actually very curious. I don't think I'll watch this one. I don't know why, but I don't know. I hear it's good, so I might too. Dang, okay. God, I'm selling my soul to these freaking movies, okay? But, the TV shows. I just don't know why they still making them. Y'all know how many serial killers there are out there? Why do they constantly do Ed Gein and John Wayne Gacy? They don't do anybody else. I don't know why.
I'm going to bring on a special guest. I always say I have a special guest, but this is really, really a special guest. We're so happy to have him. Harold Schechter is joining us. Now, who is Harold? Harold is a true crime author of the book Deviant, the shocking true story of Ed Gein, the original psycho. Harold, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Very glad to be here. Thank you for inviting me on.
You got it. So as our resident Ed Gein expert, let's just start here. What got you involved in wanting to study his life, to write the book? Let's just start there.
Well, for 42 years, my day job was as a professor of American literature here at Queens College here in New York City. And my special area of study was 19th century Gothic literature, Edgar Allan Poe, Nathaniel Hawthorne, and so on. So I've always been very interested in why we need stories about monsters. And at some point in my researches on another book, I came across the fact, which was not widely known at the time, I mean, I was unaware of it, that both Hitchcock's Psycho and Tobe Hooper's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre had both been inspired by the same true-life criminal. So I began to investigate that, thought it might make an intriguing subject for a book, and proceeded to do a great deal of research into the story, traveling to Plainfield, speaking to Gein's neighbors and people who had grown up with him, and interviewing psychiatrists who had treated him and so on. And the result was my book, Deviant.
And let me say this, there is a tremendous interest in Ed Gein. I mean, even if you look at the Netflix series right now, I think it's #1 on the charts. You've watched a majority of it. We're going to get into specific points about whether they got it right or not. But from your opinion, two questions I have. One, do you think that they got his story right, generally speaking? We'll get into specifics. And two, there has been a backlash on these kind of shows that would arguably glamorize or dramatize a killer, and we saw it in the Menendez brothers. We're seeing it here. Do you have a concern with these kinds of shows where you're blending horror with entertainment? So let's start here. How much of it do you think is actually correct? How much of it's accurate? And do you have a concern with a show like this?
I would say that 90% of it is inaccurate. I was actually quite taken aback by the kinds of liberties the writer, Ian Brennan, took with the Gein story. There's so much in the show that's pure fabrication and has nothing to do with the realities of the case. In its broad outline, it's accurate. I mean, Gein was this loner, overly attached to his mother, who became a grave robber and murdered 2 local women. But aside from a few bare facts like that, there was pretty much nothing in all 8 episodes that seemed to me to bear any reality to the historical facts.
That's interesting that you say that, and I want to dive into that. But you mentioned his mother, Augusta. It's often portrayed as the key to his psyche. From your research, was that really the root of Ed Gein, his psychology? Was it just part of a larger picture? Let's start right there.
Well, it was certainly a major part of his psychology. I mean, it appears that after her death, when he was living alone in this ramshackle farmhouse with no electricity or running water, he grew so lonely for her company that he attempted to dig up her corpse and bring it back home to me, but he was unable to reach the coffin, primarily because the soil in that part of Wisconsin is very sandy, and many coffins are interred within concrete vaults. That seems to have been the case with Augusta. So then he began to dig up the bodies of middle-aged and elderly women who might have reminded him in some way of his mother and bring those back to his farmhouse. Apparently, when he ran out of suitable corpses in the local graveyard, he decided to make a couple of them. So he murdered these two women, I would say executed them, and brought their bodies back home. So, yeah, a lot of the actions that have made him so notorious and really unique in the annals of American crime had to do with this attempt to resurrect his mother.
And before we get into the specifics of the show, you raise a larger point. There are people who say, there are accounts who say he's not the conventional serial killer, as we would know, more of a grave robber, like you said, who crossed the line. Would you agree with that? He's not a traditional serial killer as we, typically think?
Yeah, I've been saying that for a while.
Okay.
In fact, the new edition of my book, which you can see over my shoulder, I wrote an afterword, and the first thing I talk about is the fact that Gein was not a serial killer. In fact, the phrase serial killer doesn't even appear in my book. The phrase serial killer was coined to describe specifically what used to be called lust murderers, that is to say, psychopathic sex killers like John Wayne Gacy or Ted Bundy, who derived their sick pleasure from abducting, torturing, and then murdering victims, and usually having an orgasm when they finally kill them. Gein was not a sex killer. The two women he killed, as I said, he just shot in the head. I mean, he executed them. He wasn't interested in torturing them. He was interested in bringing their corpses back home so he could mutilate them in the way he liked to do. So yeah, Gein was one thing about the show that I had difficulty with is that, it presents Gein as this sort of prototypical serial killer who inspired all these other serial killers. I'm sure all the serial killers they show at the end of the show had no idea who Ed Gein was.
Okay, so two kills. I thought it was more, like I said, the movies make it seem worse than it is, even though all this is bad because it's killing. So I did like what he said, how he split it up. He's not really a serial killer. Serial killer is 3. Somebody told me it's 2, and I was like, no, serial killer is 3. So he was more of a grave robber and murderer. He's still a killer. But like he said, the other one's Ted Bundy. They kill for pleasure. Ted Bundy, the Hillside Stranglers, the Sunset Killer, the Toy Box Killers. Y'all, the names are so wild, isn't it? And if you didn't know the Toy Box Killers, that was so dark. I seen the whole story. There's like recording that they was recording, like you can hear the audio. They also were the ones that made popular the white van. Unfortunately, that you don't go near a white van. That's because of that. So many. So yes, those are all pleasure serial killers, and I said pleasure because they kill for pleasure. And he's more of a grave robber, still killed, took their skin, very disturbing. So he's still a killer. I do not care. He's a murderer. But it is the different ways they didn't depict him in the series, I guess. Like I said, I did not watch it.
Again, among other things, he was a pretty obscure figure. I immodestly take some credit for bringing him into the larger public awareness.
Was that him?
But he was not a serial
He
killer.
looks so different.
No, and I appreciate you emphasizing that point. Let's get into some of the storylines in this, and we'll start with what you just said. How Ed Gein would sneak into these graveyards at night under moonlight, dig up the coffins, harvest the skin, the bones to make these macabre artifacts.
And you know what? As they're saying that, no, I stand by saying that he killed many people because you still dig up bodies. That is so disturbing. I still say you still kill because you don't do that. And he took skin off these bodies. So yes, he should. I'm not trying to say he's a serial killer. Still should be said as to be one because it's like you robbed graves, but they're still bodies. necrophilia. He didn't. I don't think he did any of that. But like you touch dead bodies. Those are once human beings. So yes, let's not act like he did not do this stuff now. And at the same time, I need them to stop talking about these people like they are like historic figures. They're historic killers. That's what it is. And I know you have authors who they write books and they're like, oh, they did not get this right, and he really didn't do it like this. It was because of this. It was less of this, and he was more of this. Look, the man was a killer. He was sick. Yes, his mom started all of this, and she know where she at. He know where he is. They probably together. It's like, no matter what, he's still a disturbing figure. A killer figure. I shouldn't even said that. But I just know that they write their books, they do their research, the authors do, not really much of the entertainment people. They just see money and they just hear the story and make it how they want. But let's stop talking about the killers like they are famous, okay? Because they're not. And we need to stop making them be, because people who kill now be thinking and this is true, y'all, they really do be thinking they're going to be on TV, they get all the attention until they hear their sentence and they're getting bent over in prison.
From that depiction in the show, that aspect of it, is it all accurate or no?
That part of it's pretty accurate from what I saw. The most inaccurate part is the scene in which we see Gein having intercourse with one of the bodies. It's very unclear if he ever had any sexual activities with the bodies. There's some suggestion that he might have at one point tried or thought of it.
Would not be surprised.
But he wasn't particularly interested in.
Right.
The classic, the term necrophilia was originally coined to describe a early 19th century French military man. He was known as Sergeant Bertrand, who would go into graveyards at night, dig up corpses until he found one of a recently buried attractive young woman, and have sex with the corpse. You know, I always think of Gein, I know this sounds somewhat flippant, but, you know, as a peculiarly American kind of necrophile who didn't want to have sex with corpses. He wanted to use their bodies as raw material for his home improvement projects.
Yeah, that's...
Look, and this is why I'm happy I'm watching this, because two different points, because I disagree. Just because you don't know, you weren't there. You weren't there every moment. Yes, they write books, but they only look at the evidence and if he had tapes. But it's like, you don't know what exactly he did. Now, if they depicted that in the show, which it sounds like they did, they probably tried to make it darker than it is just because it's a horror series. And they just, when you hear about a individual digging up bodies, using the skin, it's not far along that they might have done that. Like, that's so true. I'm talking about, it's true that it's not far from it. Because other cases I have seen with necrophilia involved, you got Gary Ridgway. It's like the Green River Killer, if you don't know who that is, Gary Ridgway, very disturbing man too. And he's still alive, like, just right there. He would go back up and they're decomposed maggots, and he had a whole interview talking about this too. Y'all, so sick. And he was just so straight faced, like he looked like a little loser, and I'm just saying that, a little nerd loser who just don't do anything, and he was just talking so normal about it. He, even though decomposed, he kept going back to have intercourse, and I don't even want to imagine that sight. Get it out of my head. But the other cases I've heard about necrophilia cases, they'll chop them up afterwards. It's not, when you hear about them chopping up people, taking skin off, taking body parts, nipples off, because I heard so many, I watched a lot of true crime, and then they have intercourse with the dead body. That's not surprising, because look at all the other stuff they did. This man had major mom issues because of her. She did this to him. She abstained him from sex. She told him how, like, defiled women were, even though she's a woman, whatever, who weren't up to her standards. And basically I feel like he was just in love with her. it wouldn't be surprising if he was curious and wanted to do all of that while they were dead. Do y'all get what I'm saying? I'm just saying it's not far from like it. I wouldn't say that he didn't do it because you don't know if he did it or not. Like there would not, I'm pretty sure he could have, there's no evidence. So if they depict it, it probably was just because after all the other stuff he did, I would add it on there too. I would, as sick as this man was, I would not be surprised. You're taking skins and belly buttons and boobs off. Be for real. Like that's like it's highly possible. But I just wouldn't say that he's saying that, oh, that did not happen. You don't know that.
That's definitely the way to put it. All right, let's talk about this babysitter aspect. So this claim that he was a babysitter, the series shows several eerie scenes where he can be sitting on the floor telling children's stories, the camera slowly revealing the horror that is waiting back home. Do the historical accounts suggest, A, that he was a babysitter and that he was creepy or strange around children, or is that an invention of the show?
He was a babysitter,
Yeah.
and the fact that he was a
Who would want him to
babysitter
watch their
says
kids?
something about the
Grown
way he
men
was
watching
perceived
kids?
in the community. You know, he was just seen as maybe slightly simple-minded, but friendly and obliging person who would run errands for neighbors and so on. So apparently he did do some babysitting, but he actually related very well to children. When I did my research, I spoke to a young man. I guess he was in his 40s maybe at the time I spoke to him, who had been Gein's nearest neighbor and had been in Gein's house, who spoke warmly of Gein. Gein apparently related better to children than he did to grown-ups.
That makes sense.
All that stuff about Gein terrorizing these kids is just one of many fabrications in the show.
Talk about grown-ups. We mentioned it earlier, Bernice Worden. So this hardware store owner who was killed by Gein, found mutilated in his shed. The Netflix series kind of portrays this romantic relationship, right, between the two of them. And in Monster, his relationship with her, and she's portrayed by Leslie Manville, it's complex, it's longing, it's elements of resentment, it's delusion. The show builds them into these kind of tragic opposites, right? She's a widow trying to move on. He's this lonely man yearning for a maternal figure. There's a lot of emotional tension. What is accurate about the relationship? What is not? Do you think that they took creative liberties with the romantic aspect?
Nothing is accurate about it. I mean, it's complete fabrication. You know, Bernice Worden, kind of a grandmotherly kind of person, who ran the local hardware store. You know, Gein did seem to apparently have some interest in her. He sort of joked, well, it was hard to know if he was joking or not, but at some point he asked her to go, if she would go roller skating with him. Roller skating was a favorite activity of his. But apart from that, they had no relationship whatsoever. Somebody sent me recently a posting online that the Worden family is quite upset over how the show depicts their relationship. There's no truth to it at all.
That's common. We see that in a lot of these shows. People who are portrayed, the family members, particularly of those who are no longer here, they are quite vocal about how it's being portrayed. Because for a lot of people, this is going to be a show, their first introduction to Ed Gein. They may take everything as true, which is why, again, Harold, I'm so happy to have you here to break it down and separate fact from fiction. There are darker subplots here. And one of the things here is this tie with Gein to a real unsolved case, the 1953 disappearance of Evelyn Hartley, a 15-year-old babysitter from La Crosse, Wisconsin. She vanished on October 24th. She was babysitting a family's 20-month-old daughter. In the show, in Monster, detectives suspect that Ed Gein, and he even hallucinates about Evelyn, who's played by Addison Rae. In real life, Harold, what's the story? Were there ever any police leads linking him to Evelyn Hartley's disappearance?
Well, when the horrors in Gein's farmhouse were first uncovered, all these body parts, the immediate assumption was that they had come from murder victims, that Gein was in fact a serial killer, although that phrase didn't exist back then. They probably would have called it a mass murderer. Uh, there was no suspicion at the time that he was a grave robber. So after his arrest, as often happens in such cases, all these police officials descended on Plainfield, hoping they could close out these cold cases by pinning them on Gein.
I wouldn't even want to
But
touch
there
this
is
man.
absolutely no evidence that Gein had anything to do with Evelyn Hartley's disappearance. And I am firmly of the belief that he was not responsible for it because, again, that wasn't Gein's MO. He wasn't interested in abducting and sexually
But how do you
abusing
know
and
that?
torturing young women. He was strictly interested in somehow both trying to resurrect his mother, bring his mother back to live with him, while at the same time, the psychologists who examined Gein felt, justifiably, that he had these very ambivalent feelings towards his mother, which he never consciously admitted to.
Right.
This was a woman who so dominated and obviously in many ways helped destroy his life. He both worshipped her, but on a level he was not aware of, he harbored all these homicidal feelings towards her. So he was bringing back these bodies, both in an effort to, as they say, resurrect her, but also, to enact these terrible mutilations
Yeah.
on her. But in any case, yeah, the Evelyn Hartley thing, the part in the show where he kills these two hunters and dismembers them with a chainsaw. There's so much in the show, that is absolute make-believe.
Right.
That he helped solve the Ted Bundy case and so on and so forth.
Yeah, I wanted to get to that one, but since we're talking family, there's another big part of this lingering mystery about what happened to Ed Gein's brother Henry, is the idea that he killed him, right? So remember we told you earlier that Henry died in a fire under what was deemed suspicious circumstances, but Monster portrays his death in an interesting way. In the show, Ed Gein is seen killing his brother during an argument about their mother, striking him in a rage, staging the death as a brush fire accident. That is one of the series' most striking scenes. Any aspect of that seems to match up?
Well, there is a scene in my book that I based on something Gein must have said, in which he and Henry, Henry is sort of warning Ed about the mother. But there's no evidence that Ed killed Henry. My own feeling is, again, that he did not kill Henry, that they were both fighting this brush fire, and that Henry, which was, not a necessarily uncommon thing, died from asphyxiation or had a heart attack. And he apparently, when he collapsed, he apparently hit his head on a rock. Again, after Gein's atrocities were uncovered, there was all this talk about his having murdered Henry, that it was a Cain and Abel situation. But as far as my own opinion goes, based on my research, he did not kill Henry.
Okay, y'all, so that was a lot of information. And I was curious about where they was going, so they were just talking about the real and fakeness from the TV show The Monster Ed Gein and the real life depiction of his story written by the author who wrote the book. The first book, I actually believe, might not be the first book, but it's a big one, Deviant. So my whole thing, I feel like the people who who made the show probably just went online and they got their research teams, whoever do movies, they got a team of researchers who just see the same stuff over in the evidence, and that's what they ran with. Also, they probably went with a lot of theories just because of how he killed people. Well, he shot those two women, but he was a grave robber, and I still say that's still murder because you took a dead body and you skinned them. You wore skin, you made stuff out of skin, like, be for real now, come on. He had more victims. That still a count. Just because he killed two people does not mean those bodies are not counted. They should still be counted. So I think they went with all that and just made it more scary. But I'm like, at the same time, if you're going to say it's a real story, make it real, I guess. I don't know. I feel like a lot of stuff in Hollywood is fabricated. And then it's #1 right now. And I think it's #1. It's big. The show is big. I just don't get how people felt like, because some people, like I said, I know some people who said you feel sorry toward the end. I would never feel sorry for people like that. Like, that would never, ever come out of my mouth. I don't care how you were raised. Even though, once again, that mom did ruin him. God, nowadays, she would never find a man. And I'm only saying that because, like, lady, look at her views. But you know what? She might, because there are men who think like that too. You have to date a preacher or somebody who's just really against women but still want to be married because they want to be the man of the house. Another alcoholic she can date. That, like, it really be like that. And I'm being for real, because that's like the couples that be like that. They like shun their kids from the world because they don't like the way the world is, and then their kids only see them. Very disturbing, by the way. And it's like, that's all they see. And then look at the outcome you get. You got this twisted child who now want to kill people and dig up bodies and wear skin because of you. It's crazy. That's so crazy. That is so insane. And no, they don't think twice about it either. So it's like, what do you expect? My only problem with this author, he's a good author. I'm like, you wrote a good book, I guess. I need to read it. I might actually get that and read it. It's like, stop saying stuff didn't happen just because it wasn't in your research. You did your research, okay. You talked to people, okay. Like, be for real. There's so much unknown. We don't know if he had intercourse with them just because they put it on the TV show for some reason. They didn't even, actually, what's crazy? They didn't even put that in the movies. Like, there was no, like, in Texas Chainsaw 2002, I just say that because that is my favorite one because it's pure horror. There was no, like, he didn't do any of that. It was just him killing. The only creepy one was that there was no intercourse in that movie except for the teenagers, not the teen, they were not far from teenagers, the adults who were on the trip. It was just that creepy police officer, but there was no intercourse in that entire movie. All of them, there's no intercourse. There's like no disgusting stuff with that part happening. They're just murdering people. So it is interesting that they put that in there as in the series, Little Monster again. Now that I'm thinking about it, because it's nowhere else. But I would not be surprised because they didn't show it in the movies. That don't mean it didn't happen. Because all the stuff you're doing out there, you'd be like, it's a high possibility that it did happen. And him constantly saying, no, that didn't happen. That he wasn't like that. You don't know, my guy. Did you talk to the man? You don't know. Did he talk to him? No, he looked like he was born around that era too, but okay, anyways. No, stop. You don't know. There's some stuff nobody probably knew. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of secrets. He probably did so much more. I guarantee you that we don't know. But just because you say it didn't happen does not mean it didn't happen. Y'all get what I'm saying? Okay. I don't know if I will watch this. It seemed very disturbing, which I actually heard of is very disturbing. But also, I don't think I care too. Oh, I'm not gonna say I don't care too much. I really don't care about the man. But the story, the movie's made because of him. Like, the creepy stories are really scary, and that's what I like. But, like, it's not the darkest in history, which, you know what? The skin part is, okay? Don't get me wrong. Him taking skin off is. He shot 2 women in the head. He was digging up bodies, taking off skin. Yeah, it's very dark. Making light shades, the nipple. Wasn't it a nipple belt or something? Oh my God. The man, he was far beyond gone. Like, literally, the man was far beyond gone. Compared to, like he said, he don't compare him, he don't say he's a serial killer because other serial killers is like pleasure kills. I still think this is a pleasure kill though. Like, he got pleasure from, well, he didn't hook up with him, so we say, but he got pleasure, and you know that because he kept doing it. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know, y'all. It's weird. What do y'all think about this? Did y'all watch the series yet? He said it's 8 episodes. I might watch it. I might. And I might watch the John Wayne Gacy. Y'all, we might have to talk about that one because, jeez, the real life story. I seen the pictures of like them bringing the bodies out the house. It's so freaking dark. Stop making stuff about this man, please. Like, stop it. And on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. this was a roller coaster. I feel like I watched the show and I didn't even watch the show. There's so much like that happened in the show, I guess, and a lot of stuff they say that is fabricated and it's not true. But at the same time, think about it. This is Hollywood. A lot of stuff in Hollywood is not true. You have to remember that. It's not, sometimes they don't want it to be fully true. They want it to be more scary. And it seemed like it worked because people really liked it. So on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Stay safe, stay aware, stay alert, stay creepy in fictional time, not real life, okay? Because I will shame you in public. So on that note, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I'll see you guys on the next video. Did I say that already? I feel like that really butchered that ending. Did I even say my outro, y'all? Stay safe, stay aware, stay alert at all times, and I'll see you guys on the next video. Bye.